540 BC, 3355 AM. The first year of reign of King Belshazzar of Babylon, the Judahite prophet Daniel dreamed of a lion, bear, four-headed leopard, and a dreadful beast, a mighty horn that overcomes them all until God sits in judgment, and a son of man who begins a mighty government over all nations. This dream concerned Babylon, the lion, and the future empires that would cause the Judahite disbursement throughout the world. Persia is the bear, Macedonia is the leopard, and Rome is the dreadful beast. Rome would finally disperse the Jews into the four winds in 70 AD, and again finally in 135 AD, when they destroyed Jerusalem and ruined the country. The amazing prophetic dream has a twofold interpretation. These four beasts dispersed the Jews in antiquity, but the lion, bear, leopard, and dreadful beast would return in the last days and bring the Jews back into Palestine, these being Great Britain in the Palestine Mandate, lion, Russia through pogroms that prompted Jews to flee into Palestine, the bear, Germany, which evicted Jews and prompted them to flee in World War II, leopard, and lastly the United States, which played vital roles in both world wars and will play a final role concerning Israel that has not yet met fulfillment. Also in this year, Milo of Croton in southern Italy, a Greek settlement, won the boys' competition wrestling at the Olympics. He would later go on to win 5 successive wrestling Olympiads in 20 years, a record no one has ever broken. As a youth on a farm, he carried a young bull on his shoulders all day as he went about his chores. He carried the bull as it grew to adult size. 1 Daniel, 2 the Naked Olympics. 537 BC, 3358 AM. Nabonidus was the last king of Babylon, his throne name being Belshazzar, an antiquarian who restored the old temples of Babylon. He had old records excavated from below ruined foundations, discovering the foundation stone of King Naram-Sin, Nimrod, at Nippur. It is remarkable that the last king of Babylon found archaeological evidence of the first king of Babylon over 13 centuries later. In the 3rd year of his reign, the old prophet Daniel in Babylon dreamed a vision that he stood in Elam, Persia, where a two-horned ram, Medo-Persian Empire, pushed about until it encountered in a war a he-goat from the west, Grecia, with a notable horn between its eyes, Alexander of Macedon, that collided with the ram, throwing the two-horned ram to the ground. At the height of the he-goat's power, he became 4 notable horns, empire divided into 4 generals' territories. One horn became exceedingly powerful, wicked, and aggressive against the south, Egypt, and the pleasant land, Judea, this being Syria, under Antiochus Epiphanes IV. He would cause the sacrifice to cease and desolate the temple by sacrificing a pig on the altar. Most of this vision would come to pass in the following centuries, but Daniel was shown this vision because the beginning of the fulfillment would be in that same year, 537 BC. One night the king of Babylon holds a feast, orgy, in the royal court and orders that the holy vessels from the temple of Jerusalem be brought out. The court used these vessels for nobles, prostitutes, courtesans, and the king. They had been in the possession of Babylon for 60 years, since the sack of Jerusalem and the temple in 597 BC. A vision appeared and scared the wits out of the king, the image of fingers in the air that wrote a message on the stone wall that read, Mene Mene Tekel Upharsin. Daniel the prophet was summoned to interpret the writing, which was layered with meaning. Daniel told them that it meant numbered, weighed, divided, explaining that the king had been weighed by God, his kingdom found wanting, and had been divided between the Medes and Persians. These words had a mathematical meaning as well, being in Aramaic measures 1,000 mene, 500 tekel, and 20 upharsin, adding up to 2520, 360 times 7. This year, the blasphemous employment of the temple vessels by Babylon, the same night the Persians took the city, counts 2520 years to 1984 AD, the exact midpoint of the Iran-Iraq War, Iran being ancient Persia and Iraq being Babylonia. Also in 1984 AD, the Temple Institute was founded for the preparation of the rebuilding of the temple and replication of the holy vessels. That night, according to Herodotus in his famous work The Histories, circa 450 BC, Cyrus of Persia had 360 channels cut into the banks of the Euphrates River to divert the flow of the water, so his army could enter the mighty city of Babylon under the wall, where the river ran into the city. The army entered the city with little resistance, the occupation of Babylon so swift there was not a battle. By this time there were many people in the Near East of Israelite pedigree. In fact, Jeremiah the prophet years earlier declared that Israelites would be among those that broke apart Babylon. Aristotle wrote that Babylon was so vast that even 3 days later, many districts of the city did not know that it had been occupied by the Persians. The holy relics and vessels of the temple in Jerusalem that had been destroyed fell into the hands of Cyrus. As Cyrus continued the military campaigns abroad, King Darius the Mede remained in Babylon and divided the great city into 120 districts, setting Daniel the prophet as chief over all the lords that presided over these districts. The first year of Darius over Babylon, he was not yet reigning in Persia. Daniel learns that this is the 70th year prophesied against Judah concerning the desolations determined for Jerusalem. Quote, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years, unquote. This 70 years began with Babylon invading Judah and Jerusalem in 607 BC. The Jews were permitted to return to Judah, but only about 40,000 ventured back to rebuild Jerusalem and the country. The actual number of years they were in captivity as a nation was 48, 576 months, from 585 to 537 BC. But this 48 years changed an entire people. During this 48 years, the race of Judah was transformed into the race of the Jews. H. G. Wells, in A Short History of the World, wrote that the people who came back to Jerusalem at the command of Cyrus were a very different people in spirit and knowledge from those who had gone into captivity. This change would be increased as the Jews then intermarried with the people of the Edomites, the descendants of Esau, whom they were expressly forbidden by the prophets to intermarry with. This amazing year was exactly 204 years, 2448 months, before the Persians would be decisively beaten by the next empire in prophetic succession, Macedon by Alexander in 333 BC. 1. Sargon the Magnificent. 2. Daniel. 4. Jeremiah. 5. 1 Esdras. 8. A Short History of the World.